Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Box. And in case you missed it, Rassie Erasmus has started a podcast, which he's released 3 episodes so far. The first one on Felix Jones, second one with Zadia Stick, and the third one with Steven Kitshoff. And I thoroughly enjoyed the Steven Kitshoff one in particular because it speaks to the reasons why the Springboks are so successful. And I think if you look at the relationship that Rassie Erasmus has with his coaches and players, it gives you a lot of insight as to why the box is so successful, in terms of the brutal honesty. And more to the point, I think it's a really good anecdote of how Springbok players are willing to do whatever is needed by the team and by the management, by themselves, to get results and to get the job done. And it's maybe it sounds a little bit insignificant and maybe, it doesn't sound like that big of a deal. But I just thought this one specific story within the podcast just clearly demonstrates so well that the box players will do absolutely anything, to for the good of the team. And there is that kind of alignment, and that's why Rassie Erasmus speaks about. And I was at the press conference in 2023, and we talked about the fact that does he believe he's got the best Springbok squad, and he said that I don't know if we've got the best 33 players, but we've got the right 33 players. And that in itself is so significant because there is a small difference. It's not necessarily saying that we've gone and picked the 33 best players, best rugby players that are South African qualified in the world, and we've taken them to the World Cup. We've taken the right 33 players. And the difference is, if you're looking at two players who are quite similar, one maybe might edge the other on, their skill set, maybe even might be even better player. But if they've got the wrong attitude, if they've got the wrong sort of temperament, then the Bok management don't want them in the squad, and they'll pick a player who might not be maybe as good on paper or whatever, but are right for the environment and getting the right sort of personalities together. And that's a very important part of it. It's not just about making sure that you've got leaders, inverted commas, because what is a leader, and there's different types of leaders. You've got to have players who will lead from the front and are very articulate and can sort of communicate their points across. You need players who basically just lead by performance, like somebody like an Oxen Chair who's running over players, outscoring players. Impacts like that, moments like that inspire players around him, despite him maybe not being the captain or an official leader. And what was quite interesting is we actually been talking about the time when Rassie Erasmus broke a promise to Steven Kitshoff, and the reaction of Steven Kitshoff, I think, speaks volumes about the Springbok environment. So basically, what happened, and obviously now, Steven Kitshoff is basically reflecting back on this, and they can have these conversations because he has formally retired due to that neck injury. And Rassie Erasmus said that he actually promised him the captaincy at some stage, not for sort of long term, but for a specific game. And basically, back in 2023, when the Boks went over to Buenos Aires to play in that warm up match, I think it's actually when Qatar Cup made his debut actually off the bench, if I'm not mistaken, which is significant because he's kind of sort of taking over from Steven Kitshoff. But basically, Rassie Erasmus had told Steven Kitshoff that he would be the captain for that match. He said, apparently, he said, Kitsy, if nothing changes, you're probably going to be Springbok captain next week. But then he was selected. He wasn't captain, and he never actually did captain the Springboks. And becoming a Springbok captain is an incredible, incredible feat for any player. It's one thing to become a Springbok. To be a Springbok captain, it's a whole different sort of realm of elite company that you sort of stand with. And these days, we're seeing more captains, I think, as we're seeing more rotation within the side. But it's incredible honor to captain the Springboks, and he never got that, which would definitely been significant. If you ask him, what would have been, one thing he would love to have done in his career, he definitely would have said he would have loved to have let out the Springboks, just once. Captain the Stormers was definitely one. But the main thing he said is, well, I should say, is that when it didn't happen, nothing changed. And Steven Kitshoff accepted. Rassie even said, he wasn't captain. He never even asked me again, just pitched up for training. And I mean, that's an incredible sort of anecdote in terms of a player who was promised this and then it didn't happen. And he said, right, okay, there was no sort of, I was goal setting this, you can't do this to me, this is a massive letdown. It was right, okay, well, this is what's best for the team. Therefore, I'm happy to do it. And Kitshoff describes as follows. He said, Rassie came to me and said, listen, if everything goes to plan, no injuries, you're looking good after this weekend, you'll probably captain us against Argentina. He said in the week he realized, I think, that either medical staff or someone told him, listen, Kitsy's been playing a lot of minutes back to back every weekend. He then turned around and said, listen, Kitsy, I think you're more important to us for New Zealand in 2 weeks' time. I'm going to keep you out of the squad this weekend. You're going to run water, run touch, carry all the messages, play a massive role in the game, but we're going to give Bongi the captaincy. And he says he understood his role for the weekend. He said he had a few more drinks on Wednesday with a steak, and then he focused on carrying the mess on the field. It sounds silly, and maybe it is a bit, of an over exaggeration, but just a moment like that, that's somebody whose dreams of being a Springbok captain, were kind of shattered in seconds. And those who sort of watch the Springboks will understand how important it is to captain the Springboks, even just once. But for him to basically, without a doubt, just switch on and say, right, okay, fine, whatever, I'm going to do the best I'm going to do. I'm going to fulfill my role. That is what has carried the Springboks over so many years. The fact that even if you're on the bench, your role is on the bench to bring an impact, and that's what you're going to focus on. Even when your role is, not in the matchday squad, and your role is to then prepare and analyze and help your other players. And there's sort of this collective buy-in all the time that it's never, ever been about the individual and always about the team. And that has, I think, been one of the biggest reasons for their success, is the team environment we're seeing in the box for the last few years is very, very unique. Now, lots of teams out there, will try and do team building, and they'll try and, get themselves together and try and talk about the fact that it's all about the team, not the individual. But I don't think too many teams have gotten it right to the extent that the Springboks have. And I mean, for example, we see in France where players have left after being told they're going to be on the bench, and they're basically saying, no, I'm not a bench player. This is not for me. Cheers, bring somebody else in. And they've left the camp. We've seen players who have had falling outs with over where they play and when they play and stuff like that, and players questioning tactics and the likes of that. The current Springbok environment is such that the players will basically just blindly trust the coaching staff because they've built that sort of relationship. They've built that repertoire, and they've also got the results. That's also a big thing. It's one thing to sit there and say, it's all about the team and these are the decisions we make. But if you're not getting the results and you're not winning things, then there's sort of license to question the methods, because the methods obviously aren't working. But when you've got a situation like this where the methods are working, where they are winning titles and games and 2 World Cups, you sit there saying, right, okay, well, I want to be part of the success. Therefore, I've got to buy into the vision and what that actually means. And that means that if you want to be a World Cup winner, maybe you might not play all the World Cup games. Maybe you might not even play 2 or 3 World Cup games. Maybe your job is to go over and basically help prepare the side and be there in case something goes wrong. That's your role. But you can still become a world champion by doing that. And you still are as worthy of a world champion medal as somebody playing the game, because of how it is such a big group effort. It's not just about the 15 players on the field. The World Cups are not won in 80 minutes. They're won in 4 years. In terms of the preparation and the hours and hours of analysis and all that, to then all to come together on the day when it counts. So that for me, I think was a really cool story, and there's lots of other stories about that. But it was also quite heartbreaking, I think, to be honest, to look at Steven Kitshoff and think that he just never got to captain the Springboks, because he should have. He should have been a Springbok captain at some stage. And it is quite sad that we're not going to be able to see him play for the Boks again, and definitely not going to be able to see him obviously captain is very heartbreaking. But what do you think? Do you think that this is, what do you think of the sort of the kind of thing? Is this something that we kind of just come to expect, really? Or is this a Steven Kitshoff in particular, type of person where he just is all about the team? He's always been about the team. Let me know what your favorite Steven Kitshoff memory is down in the comments below. Please do smash the like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.